What's up, guys? I'm Shannon Ikau from Counts Customs. Check out Bill's Cool Projects on YouTube. Take it easy.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the workshop. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Out of all the billions of YouTubes out there available these days, you actually found this one and you're watching it. I appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button down below to support the channel. Also hit the like button, that helps the algorithms on YouTube to help promote the channel even more in the videos. But if you haven't done so, also hit my playlist down there below. I've got solar projects, survival, RV and camping. I've got e-bikes, hot rod builds, Power Stroke diesels, Cummins diesels, all kinds of stuff. So it might be something else of interest to you. So hit the playlist. So the progress continues this week. It's Monday morning, getting ready to kick off the week here and see what else I could wrap up on the 1929 Mercedes. But for those of you just tuning in, this is a 1929 Mercedes SSK replica that was delivered to one of my neighbors in 1986, but was never built. It literally sat in a barn, living with the horses and the mice and so on. And we dug it out of the barn after he passed away a year and a half or so ago, and we're building it for the first time. But a lot of the techniques, part 1 through, I think we're up to part 10 now on this, a lot of the techniques I'm using, you can apply it towards other restorations on your cars that you're doing, other builds that you're doing from scratch, so on. But a lot of progress last week. So the next thing to do is I need to put the filler hose in through the side of the firewall here. This is the original Pinto. Looks like an exhaust muffler, but it's actually the gas filler tube. To go into the aftermarket tank that I'm installing here. I did get my 90-degree 2.5 inch, 2.25 inch filler hose, which is different than a radiator hose because the chemical makeup of it, I guess, to resist the gasoline. But anyway, that's going to go in. I'll take you through that. And then after that, we're going to go in and lay up fiberglass. So if you've never done fiberglass before, in this video, I'm going to take you through how to lay up fiberglass mat, how to mix the resin, how to catalyze the resin, what temperatures, what ratios you need to do. So it should be very interesting, but I need the fiberglass all the way around the body and fiberglass it down to the pan to secure the body down for the final assembly. Once this body goes on, it's never coming off. It's going to be permanently bonded to the floor, and that should take care of it. So again, appreciate everybody watching, and let's get to it. Wow, this turned out really good. Got the filler on the outside, looks nice and neat, didn't mess anything up. And then on the inside, I've got the filler, and I used some acid etching primer. I cleaned it up real good. I have a good seal. I used silicone seal around the hole. Comes down into my 90-degree elbow, and I like double clamping all of my filler hoses all the time, so there's double clamp on it on the top and on the bottom. So that finishes up that project. So in the last video, I had a couple questions in the comments on the vent for the gas tank, and just to answer those questions, so let's go over the hosing. This is the fuel. This goes to the fuel pump. This is the return, so off the fuel pump, if there's extra fuel that's not going to the carburetor, it's going to feed back all the way back into this tube and dump back into the tank. So this fuel goes all the way down to the bottom of the tank, maybe about 1/8 of an inch or 3/16 up off the bottom. This is going to go right into the top, maybe stick down an inch. And then at the very top, there's a vent, and that's this hose here. So when I got the tank, they sell these fittings. It's like a spun aluminum fitting. You can see it down in there. And what that does is gives you the ability to vent to the outside atmosphere. And on the bottom of the fitting, there's like a slit up underneath here on the bottom that has kind of like a rough stainless steel wool that's inside here. And that'll prevent any bugs from getting up in there and then going down to the vent into the gas tank. Also, because it's on the bottom, the way it's designed is if it rains, it'll run across the top here and then drip off and not go up into the hose and then down in the fuel tank, because getting water in the fuel tank would not be a good thing. So the vent needs to be higher than the tank, and the vent needs to be higher than the filler neck. All right, so I'm up about here on the vent, and the filler neck is down lower, so that's very important. Lower, depending on maybe expansion of the fuel from temperature on a hot day, it could create siphoning, so you don't want all the fuel to be running out on the ground. Today is how to lay up fiberglass day. So I went down to my local fiberglass and ABS supply shop and got some polyester resin. They are Plasticare. You may have one in your town, but this is the one in Denver. So ran downtown and got a couple jugs of this the other day. You also need the catalyst or the hardener to go with it, and some extra cups here or some leftover Chinese hot and sour soup containers from your local Chinese restaurant work great, which I'll be using after I run these out. Got some disposable paint brushes, 2-inch paint brushes from Lowe's. Just cheap, because once this is in the resin, it's going to harden, it's scrap. Some stirring sticks to go with it. And I've got my roll of fiberglass here. And this is oriented strands, kind of like my oriented strand board that I'm using for a workbench here. But this is like a couple 100-foot roll. Should last me a long time. But this stuff's great to work with. I don't like using the braided stuff that looks like cloth that's crisscrossed. But I like this stuff the best. It just soaks up the resin, and once it hardens, it's really good. The other thing you could do too, the same principle could apply to carbon fiber. For those of you doing hot rods with carbon fiber on a mold, or maybe laying some different shapes up for dashboards, that sort of thing. The process is very similar, except the material you're going to use is carbon fiber, which is a lot more expensive. But once this hardens up, it's extremely strong. Again, I just mounted it a little bar here on my vise so I could roll it off and cut it to length. The car is all prepped. I scuffed up the gel coat. So on the floor pan, this was made in a mold, and there is a gel coat on the top layer, that's the black, and it might have some release agent left over on it. So I scuffed it up with like a 40 grit little flapper wheel on my die grinder, and then I cleaned it up with lacquer thinner so it's good and clean so the resin can adhere to it. But you want to do this in small sections. Do it no more than like a 2-foot section. Mix up your resin in small batches. So I have all my pieces laid out here ready to go. So if I have a little bit extra resin and I finish this panel, then rather than wasting the resin, I can go on and start the next one and use it up, and then I'll mix another batch and continue. But I got all my pieces laid out where I need it to be. I'm only going to go up to about there on my footwell, and then I'll come back later after I chop these out. So once I have the body strength with that 2x4 buried in the fiberglass, then I can cut out 1 inch all the way around there, and then I can easily access the toe kick area, the corner of the firewall that I need a fiberglass in up there. So after I fiberglass this in with a 2x4 covered, this will be structurally strong enough, the body, that I can then cut out this support, and then later on down the road put the door on with the hinges. And there are a lot of fumes with this, so you have to do this in an open air environment. So it's warm enough out here in Colorado today. I'm going to be up in the 50s with the sun, And I'll put the door up, and I'm going to crank up my Mr. Heater Big Max to keep it warm. You want it to be 65 to 70 degrees while you're laying up the fiberglass. Any warmer than that, it's going to catalyze faster, and it's going to shorten your hardening time. You're going to be busting your butt to get it done, and then probably wasting some resin if it's over that temperature. But what you need to do is adjust the catalyst or the hardener drops accordingly to the temperature. So it takes a little bit of experimentation to do it. That's the trickiest part of this whole thing, is how many drops of hardener to use in the resin. And once you get that down, just keep punching it out, keep mixing batches up, small batches. So I am going to put the door up and then get some air circulation through the back of the shop here, because man, there are a lot of fumes come off of this. But when I was building street legal dune buggy bodies and stuff, and building dune buggies in the 70s, I was laying up a lot of fiberglass, and it was pretty nasty back then. We didn't have quite this degree of fiberglass mat to use. It was much cruder, but now it makes it a lot easier to work with the newer technology mat, and also the better resin they have nowadays. I also want to have a good box of gloves handy. This stuff is nasty. When you get it on your hands, it's like urethane. It doesn't come off. And just to get a box of these nitrile gloves, and it's going to save you a lot of aggravation. This is my first test pass, so I fiberglassed everything all the way around here. I'll go around the metal with a separate piece. My metal supports fiberglass around that last. But you can see the fiberglass, this mat is just fantastic to work with. When you goop it up with enough of the resin, it just disappears, becomes translucent. You can see that. But I'm weighting it hard right now at my current temperature. I'm at about 60, 68 degrees or so. And I used, in my resin, I filled up a half cup of polyester resin, half a cup. And then I used 5 cc's of hardener, mixed it up really good. So this is my first batch at this temperature. I'm going to see how it does, and then I can adjust my hardener accordingly. But that gave me about 15 minutes to work with. So we'll see if it starts catalyzing here in a bit. One thing I like to do is the paintbrush and the leftover resin down in the cup that I use to mix everything in, is that you can judge whether or not the reaction is happening by kind of pushing the paintbrush down into the resin. And I can see it's starting to stiffen just a little bit, but I think the way things are going right now, it's been about 10-15 minutes. I might increase my 5 cc's to maybe 7 cc's on the next batch, but I'm going to let this go for a good half hour and then come back and do the paintbrush test here and see how things are going. It's been about a half hour, and my bristles are getting stiff. You can see it's getting tacky down in there, but there's no way that I could use this paintbrush now because it is hardening up. And you can see it's like coagulating on the end there as it sets up. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go to 7.5 cc's of hardener on the next batch, and yeah, I'll have it dialed in, and that'll give me about 15 minutes work time. And yeah, you can see how it's pulling away. So it is reacting. Very cool. Now the thing is, you can overshoot the hardener. That's great. If you undershoot the hardener, boy, you've got a mess on your hands if this resin isn't reacting. So you definitely, you know, if you're in doubt, use more than what you're thinking. Because if it doesn't catalyze, then you're going to have to scrape everything off, start over again. It's a real flippin' mess. Believe me, I know from experience. I did it a couple times. One thing you can do is keep an old hair dryer around, and if you're doing a small repair, this is a thermal reaction, so you could use a hair dryer and blow onto it to heat up the surface, maybe to 80-90 degrees. if you're in a pinch. So that's one little trick. But you can see I'm gelling up really nice there. So probably in another hour, this is going to be hard, but it's just taking too long at my temperature I'm at. So I'm going to go up to 7 or 8 cc's. All right, let's go ahead and mix up another batch. I'm going to do about a half a cup again. Again, do this in smaller batches. So that's good. And again, the fumes really come off of this stuff. So make sure you do it in a well ventilated area. Here's my hardener. 7 cc's of hardener. Again, make sure you got gloves on doing this. And stir it up for a good minute or so. Scrape the edges of the cup. All right, ready to go. So let's go lay up the fiberglass. All right, what I like doing is just, I'm about a 6-inch wide, so I'm gonna butter this up. On the bottom side, make sure I got good adhesion right up to the spot I need, and just goop it on liberally, I guess is the word. And I want to end it up about there, and then coat the back wall where I'm going to be sticking it to. Get up underneath here really good. Again, put it on really thick. Okay, next step, take the fiberglass, I'm going to bend it in there so I have even overlap on both sides, about at the length I need, and just press it down into the resin. There we go. So that'll stick really good, and then all you're going to do now is just saturate it. It takes quite a bit. Get it good. You could always push down with a paintbrush to kind of get the air bubbles out, kind of work it a little bit. But this is really easy to do, and again, once it hardens, man, this stuff is super strong. Adjust the camera a little bit there. All right. Get this sopping wet. And you can see it's becoming translucent now, which is what you want. If you see any white remaining, you don't have enough resin on it. And again, just work your paintbrush. And if you see a bad spot, you could always go back over it again later once it is hard. So this should give me about a 15-20 minute work time. So, and again, 700, and again, 7.5 cc's or so, 8 cc's of hardener for half a cup of the resin. Should put me right in where I need to be. Again, dab it. Little dab will do you. It's an old-time commercial. That's it. It's the next morning and the fiberglass set up really good and hard, and that's going to add a lot of strength. And now this body's permanently mounted down to the pan all the way around. Was able to fill in the gaps, and that's all going to be covered anyway with the seat liner, and all the way up to the front there. The 2x4s are buried into the fiberglass now. A lot of strength to the side. Next project is to cut out the doors. The doors are all cut out. Man, it just changes the appearance of the car totally. Yeah, I just buzzed around it and good to go. I got the fiberglass ready for the toe kicks, and over there in the corner I made up some cardboard out of some postal boxes, and that'll be my form. And then later on, after the fiberglass cures, I'll be able to take it out. But here's my fiberglass cut to shape for the left-hand side, little strip I need here, and then to finally cover up the rest of the 2x4 down to the floor pan. But I need to do that on both sides, so I'm going to go mix up another batch. I'll bring it back after it's all ready. I am done with the fiberglassing. See the toe kick up in there, all done, glassed in really nice. And then on the other side too, behind the pedals over there. All done, so ready for a nice coat of paint, black paint on everything, and that'll finish it up. Looking great, everyth's sealed, gloss black Rust-Oleum oil-based paint, and up into the toe kicks, all painted. Looking good, everything's sealed in, and then the entire back. But it's going to take probably a day or two to dry now, and get on to the next project. Time to unwrap the doors. These have literally been wrapped in this original paper since 1985. So let's see what we got inside here. It's kind of weird opening this up since it's been so long. Yeah, we got some mouse turds. More mouse turds. How the heck did they even get into the door? Door number one. Still sticky. That must have been really good masking tape from 1985. Also, nice shape. All right. I need to prep the doors, get the doors back with some 1/2" OSB for the hinges to mount to. I have the OSB 1/2" cut, and this is going to be for the hinges, the 2 hinges on the front of the door. And then I have these latches I was able to obtain from a tractor supply place. This is used on John Deere tractors, case tractors, for latching the cab doors shut on the tractors, combines, and all that good stuff. I couldn't find one for a lighter duty application, but I'm going to use these. They should work perfect. I already have the handles with a square notch shaft in it. I'll whack off this handle. I don't need that anymore since I'll have an inside handle. But I needed a piece of wood over here too also. to bond the latch to. So I'm gonna glue this down, bond this OSB down to the fiberglass, cleaned everything up with lacquer thinner, and I'm gonna use the Gorilla heavy duty construction adhesive. This is about the best I've found. I use this all the time now, and it works really well. So I'm gonna bond all this wood down to the fiberglass, let it sit for a day, maybe 2 days over the weekend, and I'll be ready to put the hinges on Monday. Hey folks, I think that's enough for one video. Got enough content. But the next up on the next video, I'm going to be mounting the trunk lid, and then I have the seat liner, the rear seat liner to go in, and that's what this is right here. I'm in the process of, I think a good location would be back here in the corner for the speakers, so I need to whack these holes out and get that mounted, hold it down to the floor, and then start putting hinges on, and so on. And right after that's the electrical, so I think I'll save that for the next video. But anyway, a lot of progress this week. It's Friday, knocking off for a couple days over the weekend here. But appreciate everybody watching. If you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button and hit the like, and ring the bell for notifications on new videos. If you have any comments on things you'd like to see in videos, or things I did right, or things, especially if I did them wrong, and you have some recommendations, I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments section. But so that's all for now, and thanks for watching.